psychologist. Today we're going to discuss sleep for your infant. Before we begin, I want to let you know that I'll be discussing this topic not only as a doctor, but as a parent of 2 young children. So I know the difference between what the books say and the real world. I also know the desperate feeling you get when your child just will not sleep, when they're terribly unhappy and irritable and is driving you up a wall. There are times when I was close to hurting my child. That's how upset I was. Those are normal feelings, especially during the first 3 months of a baby's life. If you find yourself getting increasingly frustrated at your baby, please hand the baby off if you can. And if you cannot, then talk to someone about it. Believe me, we've all been through it. Now, I also want to give you some hope that things can and will get better, especially with regard to sleep. There are some simple but important principles and rules we'll discuss today that will help you adapt to your child's innate sleep patterns. Here's principle number 1. Your baby needs to sleep to be happy. Many parents don't connect the fact that their babies are irritable and grumpy due to being overtired and is lacking sleep. Principle number 2. An overtired baby has a harder time falling and staying asleep. Many parents assume that the more tired a baby is, the easier it will be for the baby to fall asleep. It's actually the opposite. A baby can fall asleep easier when they are put in their crib before they are extremely tired, which means looking for the early signs of tiredness and laying a baby down when they are awake. We'll talk more about this when we talk about rules to follow. Principle number 3. Your baby is wired for sleep at certain times of the day. Depending on their age and months, most babies will follow a regular sleep pattern of naps during the day and sleep at night. This is just the way God made babies, so it makes sense to understand what those patterns are likely to be and adjust your schedule as best you can to that schedule. So let's talk about that schedule. First, you might be surprised to note that babies sleep a lot. The first few months they can sleep close to 20 hours out of a 24-hour day. Now that slowly decreases over time, but even then, babies and toddlers will spend about half of a 24-hour day sleeping. This is normal and good. Remember, sleep makes babies happy. Now, the challenge is knowing when your baby needs to sleep. Most babies I know don't tell you, "Mom, Dad, I need to sleep now." And if it's true that an overtired baby has a hard time going to sleep, that means that there's a window of time you have to take advantage of when a baby needs to sleep but is not yet overtired. The challenge is that once a baby is overtired, they may cry a lot more before going to sleep, or may not even sleep at all until their next sleep window. So you'll have to become an expert on your baby's sleep signals, and maybe even chart when and how much your baby's sleeping to get an idea of when to put your baby to bed in that special sleep window. Charting was one of the things that helped my wife and I deal with a very, very fussy baby early on. Now, as you can see from the chart, the first 6 weeks of your infant's life are about mere survival. There's no real pattern to when the baby will be awake or asleep, and all the baby really does is sleep a lot, eat, and poop. These first 2 months or so are exhausting, so take good care of yourself and ask for help. There's no sense trying to train your child at this point. It won't work. After 6 weeks, it becomes possible to see a pattern of sleep emerge. First, an hour-long morning nap starts to develop, often around 9 a.m. or so. Then a somewhat longer afternoon nap starts to appear, around 1 p.m. And a shorter third late afternoon nap appears. This pattern is most easy to see in 3 to 4 month old babies, so don't expect a 6-week-old to get this perfectly right. Now you'll be happy to note that your baby will eventually sleep at night. This can happen anytime after those first 6 weeks. Your baby will go to sleep early in the evening, perhaps around 6 or 7, and then wake anywhere from 2 to 3 times during the night. By the time the child is 6 months old or so, it is even possible to have a child waking only once per night for some food. After 6 months or so, a child will begin to drop that late afternoon nap and take only 2 naps a day, perhaps lengthening the afternoon nap some, and going to sleep for the night a bit earlier. Now every child is different, but our first daughter went to sleep consistently at around 5:30 p.m. every night at around 10 months of age, and didn't wake up until around 6 or 7 in the morning. Now, not every kid is such a great sleeper, but it is good to know it is possible. The key is putting your child to sleep in their crib before they are exhausted, when they're still relatively happy and calm, but approaching their usual nap time. That's why charting can be so important. Our daughters would often send us signals like sucking their thumbs a lot, not smiling anymore, staring off, avoiding eye contact. These were all signals we used to tell us that they were getting tired and needed to be put down. Then we just put them down in their crib, and if they did cry when we left them there, it wasn't usually for very long. After a few days, they just learned to put themselves to sleep. Now, one of the challenges of this kind of natural schedule is that it interrupts your schedule as an adult. This is something you'll have to make work for your family. It means you'll have to be home or have the baby at home with someone, or have them in a daycare situation that is sensitive to this need for sleep at the right times. But it is worth it. You'll have a happier, healthier, and often less hyperactive baby and child. Now that brings us to the crying topic. As a parent, it is hard to let your baby cry. You want your child to be happy. And in those first few weeks, you really shouldn't let them cry, though sometimes, no matter what you do, they will cry. But once they get older, it is clear that babies and even older kids are much happier during the day when they get their sleep. They just need it. So if you feel sure that your baby is not hungry, that they are warm and comfortable, and that they are clean, allowing a baby to cry themselves to sleep is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. It allows the baby to master something, just like eating, walking, and talking. If you always rescue a baby after putting them to sleep, they won't master this very important skill, and both of you will be unhappy and frustrated. But if you get better at reading your baby's signals, putting them down during that sleep window, you'll get a lot less crying. So your baby doesn't need to cry a lot in order to learn to sleep, but some crying is very normal. Now eventually the crying will go away, and your baby and you will know when it's time to go to sleep. You also will avoid sleep problems later on as the child grows older. Well, if you'd like to learn more, I personally recommend a book by a noted pediatrician who has researched sleep in infants. The book is Healthy Sleep Habits, Happy Child by Mark Weisbluth. There you'll find a lot more information, especially if your child is colicky, like ours was. Well, best of luck. It's not easy being a parent. For iPsyc.com, I'm Dr. Neftali Serrano.